Hi, welcome. This is the next section. This is where we're going to shrink everything down. We're going to create a couple shrink downs, I call them, to the end of developing what I call a first iteration. But the first step is to take our 23 or 24 panel comic that we've got and take a look at it and try to reduce it down to very, very small versions. I'll show you what I have here, and then you'll probably see a couple fades to black, and then I'll show you some shrunken down versions. Let me move this camera around. So, got this kind of bizarre story that features a couple characters I've drawn before, actually, on a boat. And they're looking for somebody. Meanwhile, there's a monster or a big creature or something in a tree eating noodles or something, and the bowl is empty, and he reaches his arm out and grabs at them. The man on the boat attacks the creature, but the woman pulls out her loose tooth and throws it at him, the monster, and the monster catches it. Maria, the character, says, "I have others." And then the monster has the tooth. Sort of has this look on his face as he clutches his own cheek. All of this was sort of like you guys, kind of one panel at a time. Sometimes it felt like it was making sense, and other times it didn't. And that's okay. That's how it's supposed to be. And now I'm just going to take a second and try and locate what at any moment, like right now, feels like important stuff. And for instance, I can go about it a couple different ways. I can just start pulling an important panel. If I really like this panel, for instance, I can just try and create something there. I'm trying to create new 3 and 4 panel versions, kind of like we did in week 2, but this is subtracting from this entire 24 panel thing. So I can do like I said, which is choose one and just sort of focus from there. Or I can just choose threads that I think are interesting. I think her and her teeth are very interesting. I don't know if him and his bowl of noodles are interesting. I think so. I don't know if them and their slight spat about where they're heading and their sort of differences is interesting yet. But that's what I'm going to go on, is those sort of 3 things. I think I'm going to play around with a version that's mostly about her teeth, and then a version that's a little more about the monster, and then a version that's a little more about the characters. And I'm going to see what we get. So let me pause this. So here's a new version, and I know I'm already violating a rule because this one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 panels. I could probably lose this one. It starts here. Now it's 6 panels. She's poking at her tooth. My tooth is loose. The monster immediately reaches for them. She throws it. I threw my tooth at it. Maria, I have others. And that's it. So out of the 24 panels, that's a interesting 6 panel version. Just focuses on the action, the fact of there being a loose tooth, and it being thrown at a monster. We never see the monster in this version. We don't see much about the sailing down the river in this version. Let's try another. So here's another 6 panel version. So I guess if I've said somewhere in the documentation that it should be 3 or 4, well, shoot for that, or go a little bigger. It's definitely for our final step in our first iteration in this step. We go for whatever feels most comfortable. So here's a 6 panel version, mostly focusing on the creature in the tree. So it starts with his reaching out for them. And then she grabs her tooth and chucks it at him. And now we see him inside the tree. He's got the tooth. And then we hear their dialogue in text only, and maybe I'd incorporate this into a picture, or maybe not. And it says, Maria, you threw your tooth at him. She says, I have others. And he looks at them. And actually, maybe I would lose that thing where it says, Maria, you threw your tooth. And I think I would just say, I have others. So that it shows him holding the tooth. The text, I have others. And then it ends with her, this creature, looking sort of out his hole, but he's thinking clearly about those other teeth. Or he's just moved by the single tooth. But I think that like him overhearing I have others is actually kind of a profound moment. So that's an interesting concept. So I've got two that I've done so far. One about the action of throwing, and one more about his interest in her offerings, let's say. One more. And so in one final rendition, I said I would try and focus on the sort of dialogue and the like slight spat. So it starts with, maybe the others are just around that bend, and then the monster in the tree hears, right, they're always just around that bend. And then this text-only panel, you're always going on about the others. And the monster from behind the tree or inside the tree reaches at them. I threw my tooth at it. I have others. And so this isn't brilliant in its own form like this, but there's something to this, and it may even be one of my favorites. It's terribly out of focus, isn't it? Anyway, so I've got these three versions. And now, there we go, we're in focus now. And so now my next step is to just sit with it for a little while and make what I call a first iteration. And it's probably going to be a variation on one of these three that I just did. And maybe it'll be a panel or two longer. And then that's it. And next week, the step after, well, we'll get there. But our job for this week is first do this. Sit on it for a day or two. And then figure out our favorite of this and sort of make it as meaty as it needs to be. Some of you may think like, this has to be 18 panels or this has to be 20 panels. I think in the PDF I give you, I think it's 11 or 12 panels or something. I'm feeling like some sort of mixture or somewhere in the 9-panel range is probably where I'll wind up. But I'm going to give that a little bit of thought, and that'll be another video. Thanks.